All right, thank you everyone for your patience. We had some unforeseen technical difficulties, but we're ready to go now. And this is a presentation of the budget and capital budget review, as well as a little bit discussion of the town meeting warning, and then for the information on the bond or for the town maintenance facility. And this is a formal informational meeting as would be required for Australian ballot items. The select board instituted this meeting during COVID has continued it since then. And as we start a review of the budget, the board wishes to acknowledge that the Affordable Housing Committee sent a letter to the board after the last budget meeting, wanting the board to include money for a wastewater reserve fund. We did not do that for several reasons. Primary reason was that the board and staff developed the budget. We were cognizant of the need for a bond vote for the new maintenance facility and also had learned of the fiscal cliff that the school were facing with significant potential increase in the school budget that would have an impact on the taxpayers. After looking at our initial budget with the expected increases in normal spending plus other things we had thought we needed, led to a nearly 10% increase in tax revenue. So we began to cut wherever possible while maintaining services. And this has led to a nearly negligible increase in town spending, with the increase being with the bond for the town. Secondary considerations for the not to do the reserve fund at this point is that this is premature. There has not been any public presentation of the scoping study at the 60% completion. And it's only going to, which is going to start later in March. For the study areas, this will involve private landowners, as the town does not own land in these areas. There may also be other mechanisms to provide the means to encourage development of affordable housing that should also be considered as part of this process. And fiscal year 26 would be a better time to consider a reserve account and determine how much would be needed to set aside over time. Now, when it comes to the budget, we have, I will go over the revenue and the information on that. And initially, we're looking at a 1.7892, which is essentially 1.79% increase of from the budget of FY24, which is $52,369. With an anticipated increase in the grand list of approximately 1.6%, the increase is essentially negligible at 0.17% increase. So somebody with a house at the $300,000 range would not see any particular change in their tax rate. We So we're asking for a $2,979,399 to be raised by property taxes. Although it looks like there's a big, nice jump on penalties in delinquent taxes, it's only 3,000. We raised it from 18,000 to 21,000, which is 3,000, which is almost 17% increase, and that's on the penalties. And it's going to be interesting to see if there's any impact that going from 8% penalty to 4% penalties will have any impact on this. On intergovernmental, changes are relatively, most of them are fairly small, but again, it looks like we have a big change when you're taking away $200. It's 16.7%, but it's really looking at the state appropriations for payment in lieu of taxes, where we looked at the historical records and decided to move it from 1,200 down to 1,000 because it's been less than $1,000. Again, state aid for roads, the percentage change is not much, 2.9%, but it's a larger impact of $5,000 for $165,000 from 170 for state aid for roads. And you know, that the state looks at that to reflect, you know, what may happen, you know, because 120 in actual what FY23, it was only $157,705 we got. So we felt that it should be reduced to reflect that there might be a change there. In the rest is fairly small. Municipal road grant and aid. That's going from 24,000 down to 20,000, which is a change of 4,000. And these are state dollars to support work on roads to meet the best practices for road stormwater and water quality. And then again, so our total intergovernmental changes from 282,100 to $73,600 for a change of 3% or $8,500. Licenses and fines. We have changed things to reflect more realistically what comes in for planning and zoning lately. So we're reducing planning and zoning from 27,500 to 25,000, which is a $2,500 change or a reduction of 9.1%. The big change is if you look at the history of what the law enforcement fines have been, they have been closer to 60,000 rather than 35,000. So we increased that to $60,000 for an increase of $25,000 or 71.4%. Again, there's some big percentage changes in all, you know, dog licenses or excess weight permits, other licenses. But on the other hand, the numbers are very small. Copier fees have gone down because people with digital, people don't need so much for copying, but so $2,000 represents almost half the number we usually put in for the budget on that at $2,500. The recording fees, again, because there has been a, you know, with the slowdown in the mortgage due to the increase in the rates of the mortgages, the recording fees have gone and other, you know, recording fees have gone down. There hasn't been the refinances or anything else because of that. So the increase in rates had an impact there. So total licenses and fines is going from 131,850 down to $145,500 for a difference of $13,650, which is 10.4%. Is there any questions to this point before I move on?
No.
Okay. Okay, so in miscellaneous, these are our smaller numbers but we did see an increase in the interest in checking, but that probably reflects our ARPA funding that's sitting there earning interest.
Well, and the rates
And the rates of
are quite a bit higher than, well, maybe not higher than last year, but certainly higher than.
but certainly higher. So we actually, because the actual was $15,455 in fiscal year 2023, we've raised the budget from 4,000 for 24 to 7,500, which is a change of $3,500 or 87.5%. The solar lease is a annual lease that the solar company pays to use the land over the town garage for their solar field, and that's a fixed rate of $12,000. And not classified is a variety of things that come into the town for a total for miscellaneous going from 18,500 of fiscal year 24 to 22,000 for a change of $3,500, which is 18.9%, giving us a sense of total revenues moving from $3,396,480 to $3,456,499, a change of $60,019, which is 1.8%. And now we'll start with expenditures, which will be Joe. Oh, I wasn't.
Okay, we'll start off with expenditures line 100, salaries and so on. Again, across the board, we're seeing some changes. Most of these changes are reflective of the current economics. Yeah, you know, looking at benefits and so on, healthcare always goes up. It's one constant. As far as salaries and so on, you know, although it's a 17% increase, it's still consistent with raises and so on. Let's see, legal expenses and so on, we've kept those all consistent. Basically, we're seeing in expenditures for town treasurer and so on, we're seeing a 15.5% increase in that. Administration and select board expenses. Again, as Catherine talked about, we're seeing a 4.1% increase for salaries and cost of living. Benefits, again, 36.6% increase. I surmise that's, again, healthcare. That is a constant. We do want to look at line 108, the $50,000. That's an item that we've added in the budget to address the idea that we're going to add a staff member. That's yet to be seen of what facets we're going to look at based upon the report from, was it Ascent? Ascent Consulting?
Yes.
So that's a line item that we have in there to anticipate that new position. Outside audit expenses, again, there's a change in that, 41%, 0.2%. Maybe someone can enlighten me why that is up. I'm unsure.
Which one?
Line 109.
That's a new company for audit. Audit
Yes.
prices went
Okay.
up because.
Oh, you're right. We did discuss that.
Because most companies that did government accounting for municipalities no longer are interested in doing that. And so there's fewer companies and we had to switch the one we had for a long time.
You're right. We did discuss that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Computer repairs and so on. Again, you know, we're constantly keeping up with our maintenance on our equipment to make our staff and keep our staff the most efficient as possible.
And cybersecurity.
Yeah, we're finding that too. Again, you know, the a change of 6.7% with postage, nominal. We're in advertising. We're seeing a 33% change in that, but again, it's only $1,000 regards to the amount. So again, normal. Total administration increase of 26.6% from the previous year. The amount is $43,344.
It's all primarily due to that space held for a position.
Yeah. Going on to town clerk, pardon me. Again, salaries, 4.1, 4.2. It's a simple rounding, but cost of living and so on. Benefits again, constantly go up. Board fees and elections, it's because of the primary and the election year. That's why we're seeing that big increase of 240.5%.
And that you.
I remember asking that question the first time. Again, fees regarding restoration, so on for digital records, we're constantly updating that. I also saw that we are getting more information online. Jessica's posting that she's updating our records and we're going back to, I believe, 1922 here very soon on our online record database.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool, especially from my perspective of my job.
Oh, that's true.
It's very advantageous. We do lose a little bit from people not coming in, but still, the access is great, especially for people who have issues getting around. License payments to the state, again, 14.9% increase. Still not bad. Overall town clerk fees and so on, 14.1%. Listing salaries, like 8% change in the salaries and 8% change in the benefits. It's twice the cost before. Is there a reason why it's more than 4?
What is that?
I think it's just because the salaries went up and it's also just all the government,
Okay,
because there, neither one works enough hours to get medical benefits.
okay.
Correct.
We're seeing a nice reduction in professional consulting fees of 23%, so that's promising too. Total listing is only a 6.1% increase of $2,662. Health office, no changes. We're flat across the board for the health office. Planning and zoning, again, first line salaries, 4.2, cost of living raises, 9.6 benefits, consistent. In line 143, travel meeting expenses and so on. The extra there, the $25 extra there is, we are looking into sending our town planner, Linda, to some continuing education for project management classes to better facilitate the town moving forward with our projects. Advertises, we saw a reduction of 25%. And same, it's encouraging when we see a reduction of consultant. That's also because of the town plan has been completed.
Yeah, we also took some money from there. Isn't that what we put over in with the highway department for the engineering consulting?
Yep, so Tyler's time is less.
Yeah.
Total and plan and zoning change only 1.3%. Highways and bridges. Yeah. Salaries still consistent with the 4%, we were looking at over time. It's a reduction, which is good. Maybe that could be because of a better, easier winter with less overtime for the plow crew. So we're seeing a reduction also of in the benefits. I don't know if someone can tell me why we have a 12%.
So sometimes the benefit stuff just turns out to be the mix of who's got what they're, what they're.
Because we have so few people, I guess.
Like one change in a family versus a non-family based on the employee can
Single
just.
versus two person, yeah.
Some kid turns 26.
Yeah. Oh, and, yeah, the younger ones are under their parents, so.
Yeah, once you're after 26, you're on your own. Okay. Or did I look forward to that? As far as some of the other expenses, again, they're pretty much normal as a change. We are seeing though, building and maintenance and repairs. Again, we cut that down really good because we're anticipating a positive effort on the bond vote and allocations for maintenance. So we're hoping to keep to a minimum. So we basically slashed that to keep it down. Equipment and maintenance and repairs, again, 11% increase, not drastic of 10,000 over $100,000 budget. Not bad. We're on to winter sand and so on. Again, the changes in winter sand and salt. Fortunately, we had a reduction in salt too. Again, probably due to a easier winter. Road improvements is a big item to actually talk a little bit about. In an effort, we had a long discussion on road improvements and so on, and with the coming bond vote of how we could try to keep our budget down. And one of the things that we discussed is maybe taking a year off from any large paving projects. So we severely slash on a short-term basis the anticipation of doing any paving. It doesn't mean we're not going to do our normal maintenance and address certain things throughout the year. But we decided this year to take a year off from paving and hopefully a better effort to achieve maybe a level funded budget for the year.
And I think, another thing that as we put thought into how to trim this budget, if the road crew is involved in working through getting a new building going, it may not be the best year, just manpower wise, to tackle some of these big projects. So we thought that aligned pretty well with just what capacity we might have. We are down a road foreman right now and
some of the other members are younger.
Yeah, and so it's just not the best year to take on big projects anyway.
Yeah.
But that, I think it's important to point that number is not a sustainable number. That
Correct. We can't kick the can down the road very long. And again, as I mentioned a minute ago too, that doesn't mean we don't have line items in the budget. You'll see line items from 173 all the way to 179. That normal allocations for other things are definitely there. Chloride, signing and striping, tree maintenance, brush and whatever. All those are still level funded throughout the year. So the normal maintenance necessity will occur. So overall, in total highways and bridges, we're seeing a 14.2% reduction, which is $219,936.
The other thing I'd just like to jump in, sometimes we make adjustments to the budget because we have the actual numbers from 2023, which is the most recent legal numbers that we have. And as an example, that's why in some ways the overtime, it's a reduction of $20,000, but when you look historically back at the actual numbers, that number tells us we don't need to budget the 50,000 that we have historically. So having that extra year of actual numbers is a real help from the budget.
Thank you, Brian.
So that brings us to, are there any questions on Joe's
No.
section?
No,
Well, people might not have raised their hand until the end or whatever, but okay, I don't see anyone still.
yeah,
So we'll hop into summer recreation program. So this one's a little strange, but I like the way what we do it here. Line 180 is a revenue. So you can see that revenue line is up by 28%. And then the remaining lines in that section are back to costs. So the salaries are up, but again, we expect those fees to be up quite a bit. And again, I think based on what Brian is saying, we did that based on what we could see in the most recent budget. So based on that, and you kind of come down, everything stays pretty level, but we basically get, as a town, we get that whole program for our net being around $19,785, which is a reduction of $14,765, or 42% reduction in what we actually spend as taxpayers on that program. So this is one of our better, I think, bang for our buck. We get a lot for that
Yeah.
20,000, because we do take in fees, but we do help the community and
And Lynn has always gotten a lot of positive feedback from the parents. They really love the program and it really provides a good service for the Jericho residents. And just in case people are nervous, out of town residents pay a higher fee.
yes. So that was summer rec. Insurances, pretty boring story there in general. Not much of a change at all. No change at all, excuse me, a couple line item changes, but it's just moving from one to the other. So that's level. Public
True.
health and safety. The police services went up by $37,000. And again, I want to point out that is just the cost of what we have from the sheriff. Is almost exclusively the sheriff budget, because the state police only have up to 8 hours a week from that. And Catherine covered, in the revenue section, we do expect our fines to be up a little bit. So, that's one of those areas where it could be helpful to see, where you would take in the fines to offset that higher police services. But so that, we are projecting that to be up a little bit. Buildings and property maintenance, not too much different there. Nothing really worth calling out. Well, maybe there is, because it's 15,000, which is a 13%. So where does that?
Stormwater.
Oh, right. I knew I had a note on that. The stormwater permit. So that is the 3-acre rule for any impervious surface over 3 acres is subject to a stormwater permitting program from the state. And Jericho, because of our, I guess it's like a partnership, we own some of the Jericho East.
Roads.
And the roads there, we expect a $13,000 increase in those stormwater maintenance fees. So that's where all that increase comes from. Conservation and public use, we level funded. We did the same as we did last year for that whole section. Libraries, we did remove 10,000 from the line item of 217. And that was building improvements. And the reason that we did that is because we allocated $100,000 of ARPA money to the Jericho Center Library. So in doing that, we just removed that line item from there. So that brought that down a little bit. Mandated appropriations, nothing too exciting there, 88,000. Non-mandated. At any word calling out mandated. The Vermont Cares program went up by $3,000, 13.6%. I don't know that I have a note on that, Catherine. Do you remember where that came from?
Vermont,
UVM home health.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was Vermont Cares. That was so that's Jericho's portion that they pay to UVM.
yeah, that used to be visiting nurses, but now it's all part of the UVM system.
So overall, the total non-mandated, that goes up by about almost $6,000, 5.6%. And then I think that's where my little section ends.
Yeah,
Right?
it does.
Back to Catherine.
And we have, we're not buying any equipment this year. We're not anticipating a new truck in 2025 or other major equipment for the highway. And what we've done with net cash outlays for capital improvements, what we're showing is what the income would be, or the grants, or where the money revenue is, and then the expenses for each of several things. And for it is all in the past years. We are not doing anything in 2025 other than what we have talked about. But for you see that we have spent about $427,408 in ARPA funding. And what we put these things under is the Deborah Rossing, over the past couple of years. It's been several different couple of years of funding. The first, we put money into the town with the new servers, computers, technical upgrades that needed to be done. And then we put money towards the new HVAC at the Deborah Rawson Library, equipment for the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, a disc golf course at Browns River Middle School, an ice rink at the elementary school.
Yep.
We've put the money in the $100,000 for the town library for building, and hopefully they'll also qualify for a MERP grant for heating, being able to upgrade their heating system. And then we've, brought property, a plan to create affordable housing. We bought all kinds of highway equipment, including stationary and movable radar signs. And some other things that we've talked about are, doing the decorative lighting and adding more lighting in Jericho Center, things like that. But we have not yet spent that money. Debt service, we also have combined not only the debt that we take on for the trucks, but also the debt for the town hall renovation bond. And so what we see is the interest in the debt has jumped from $16,924 from fiscal year 24 to budgeting $28,000 for this year, which is a substantial increase of $11,076 and 65.4% increase. But that because that includes a truck that came in early and we had to finance it. Principal payments went from $156,000 to $320 and $100 to $198,000. So total debt service changed from $173,244 to $226,000, which was a change of 30.5% or $52,756. We're anticipating using $25,000 in road impact fees, transferring from the reserve, and then also looking at 30,000 from heavy vehicles and equipment reserves to move to the general budget to help pay for some of this road equipment and effort in fixing the roads. But otherwise, there's no other transfers from reserve funds. So that's a total of 55,000, which is a $5,000 increase from 2024, or 10% increase. We are proposing to transfer money into reserves as well, and that includes the reappraisal fund, which is money that the town gets from the state in order to fund a reappraisal, which will be coming up in the next few years. And then we're going to put $60,000 in the sidewalks and pass fund for upcoming work, because we have various sidewalks going to construction in the next few years. And so what we're going to transfer to reserves is $85,000 for an increase, a substantial increase, because we're putting money into reserves this year rather than taking it out. And that, and more money, and that's a $50,000 increase, which is 142,000.9%. For total expenditures of $3,456,499, which is a $10,019 increase for 1.8%. And what we see differently, and that is what gives the town essentially a wash with taxes from last year to this year. But what comes separately and is voted on separately is, and you'll see on your tax form, is the Underhill Jericho Fire Department is asking for $579,107 this year. And that will be voted on separately on the town meeting warning. And Matt Champlin will talk about that more in detail at town meeting. But the select boards of both Underhill and Jericho voted to accept that budget and put it into their own budgets. Deborah Rawson Library is one that they're their own municipality, and they increased by $13,561, which is 7.5%. They went from 180,799 to $194,350. The Old Red Mill Fund is a millage that is based on the grand list, and we're budgeting $18,922. But if you look from past years, what the actual millage was trying to come around the 18,560, because it was 1856 when the building was built. But because of the fluctuations of the grand list, the millage and it's a specific millage, the value changes slightly. And the conservation fund is the same thing. It is a millage on the grand list, and it will is anticipated to bring in about $35,000 for a total collections of 200. Well, gosh,
Yeah.
didn't have my total number on that one, but it's 248,317 plus 579,107. This was bigger print. I should have looked at the smaller one. But that is also balanced by the remittances of the same value. And that's really it for the budget. We have probably on Join in Jericho, we have the budget summary as well, where they have the, so they can just see the executive summary, essentially what the budget is, where we're bringing in $3,456,499 and proposing to spend the same amount. But that's it for the budget. Any more questions? Any questions?
I don't see anybody as of yet. Anybody have any questions? No.
Well, then what I'll do is and it's a very quick capital budget. Because the only thing that's capital for fiscal year 25 is $100,000 for the road, since we took $195,000 away. But that's it. And people may say, well, how come you're not putting any money into the library? Well, as Joe said, we're putting $100,000 into the, for them to be used going forward, but there's no, there's no stipulation that that's never going to be funded again either. I mean, it may end up being funded, but going forward. And so what we have on the agenda then is we've talked about the budget and the capital budget. And it's a review of the warning. And we talked about Article 2, which is the fire department, which is 579,107 at the total 965 for 748 that they are proposing for their own budget. And that went up significantly because they're doing some major capital improvement projects themselves. Then you 3, 4, and 5 are the we call them the boilerplate. Article 6 and 7 to be talked about on the floor, and that's adopting budget and public questions by Australian ballot. Also, we've talked about on the floor is the property taxation on the lands and premises owned by the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, which is the station in 2.33 acres with assessed value of $379,800. We'll have an update on the Old Red Mill property because they only voted a 1-year extension for their and we will be able to present at town meeting where we will be, because I'm meeting with Lori for the final time on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then she will be talking to Sue Richardson, who is expected to also talk on behalf of the Old Red Mill and the Historic Society then. There's a task force update, reports of the town officers. And then we get to the biggie. Article 13. Shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Jericho in an amount not to exceed $4,150,000.00 issued under chapter 53 of title 24 in Vermont statutes annotated, payable to the from the town's general fund derived from the taxation of real property for a period not to exceed 30 years, subject to reduction by available grants and aid or other funding sources be issued to finance the cost of constructing certain improvements to the town maintenance facility of the project. Now, this is a biggie. I'm going to talk a little bit, and then the other members will also add into their discussion on the bond article. But basically, there have been questions on Front Porch Forum as to why we need new, why we're not going to do repair, why we're not going to do Plan B, etc. Well, there is no Plan B. The select board has been repairing what what they could do over the years. There was an energy audit and much work that had a good cost benefit in years, from which was most of the work was done over a few year period. Then the pillars supporting the doors were rusting at the bottom and kept the doors from functioning properly. So after that, RFP, those were repaired. After that structural issue, there was an RFP was developed to do an analysis of the structure and that had also a proposed new facility. COVID hit, put all that on hold, and then the town worked through that process. So when the furnace needed replacing in 2023, not only was there consideration of the cost of the furnace, but could it be moved to a new facility to save money? A new status report was prepared plus new facility plan. Renovations were not possible then, and now as much of the work that included reinforcing the roof if we wish to make additions to accommodate the larger size trucks, as renovations of this scale would trigger the need to meet all new codes. And so it would become a much more expensive item to do repairs than it would be just to start over and have a brand new facility going forward. They said cost is also a question. But actually this is right within the ballpark of what other towns are finding. In the last several years, Charlotte had to build a new one and it was smaller and it still was $3+ million. Milton built a somewhat similar to our proposed facility and that was nearly $5 million. We are going to be using $500,000 of ARPA funding to lower the cost of the taxpayers at the beginning. We had hoped to be able to keep the building functional until the town hall bond was paid off to also mitigate any additional costs to the taxpayers. But that was going to be paid off in 28-29, and if we wish to keep a competent road crew, avoid OSHA liabilities and cost increases due to time, we're asking the taxpayers to pass this bond. Money will also be saved by not having to buy custom truck beds. Because the building is so small, we're having to buy smaller, essentially boxes that are on the truck, which means more trips with the truck, wearing the trucks out prematurely, and it costs more in fuel as you're, you're adding more greenhouse gases to the atmosphere as you're making more of these trips. So the taxpayer cost is going to be approximately $42.91 per 100,000, or $171.64 for $400,000 home. The loan will be for 30. We're anticipating doing a 30-year note, and that decreases over the life of the loan. It will also this value that our total debt will also decrease when the town hall debt is paid off, so it won't seem quite as large at that point. And so if my other fellow selectmen want to add details,
Right. Actually, Eric is over.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I'm just gonna add more of a couple of global overview things. I did make an effort to attend both open houses for the town garage, and I did spend quite a bit of time looking at the report of the conditions and suggestions and so on that we have from Matt. Was it Matt Young?
yes.
Matt Young. Again, I was both impressed with Matt Young's presentation overview and so on. Both during our meeting, but through the report, and looking at the town garage and making the visit there, it became pretty evident that it's a very tired facility. And as we move forward with our town and growth, we need to accommodate equipment to maintain our growth and maintain the items that we want to move forward with. So the repair side of this garage is definitely outside of anything that could be useful for our expansion. And as far as something for the town, we're asking for a town vote. This is one item that the whole town will use. It won't be for a smaller group of, for municipal water we're pushing somewhere, or a path. The whole town benefits from this. The whole town gets the benefit of the crew that keeps our roads open so our emergency vehicles can get out, our kids can get to school, we can go to work. Again, this is something that's town-wide. It isn't just a smaller group or a third. This is everybody in the town will get service from this, quality service from our crew. And again, a better working facilities will hopefully attract more employees. We are still understaffed for our road crew. And as we move forward with all these options of paths and municipal water, municipal wastewater, and so on, we need good place to store all of our equipment. Paying $250,000 for a dump truck to sit outside, it's hard for me to comprehend. Each truck is $250,000, and to have that sit outside and not have the option to wash it on a regular basis with the salt that we stick on it every winter is definitely shooting ourselves in the foot. So that's all I have. This is something that the whole town needs, and will reap the benefits of.
So we got one question. Can you please repeat the property tax increase on a $400,000 house?
Okay, with my little sheet of paper.
$171.64.
Got it faster. Very good.
So I agree with everything that they said, and Catherine even mentioned this part, but when I think about, and when I see some of like the people that are concerned about how much money we're spending on something like this, I guess probably where my mind goes to first is we know we're gonna need a new one. I don't disagree that we need it now, but let's say for a hypothetical that there's an argument to be made to wait. What's gonna happen in 2 years? I don't see labor going down. I don't see supply chain getting, I don't
Yep.
see inflation, like inflation might be coming down, but it's not gonna go negative. Things are not gonna get cheaper. So we know we're gonna need this one. And yeah, we were hoping to be able to wait 5 years and offset it with this, but honestly, it probably would have cost $2 million more in 5 years. So where's the offset? So I do think now is the time. I know nobody's excited about, especially about hearing all the talk of the education tax, which no one even, I certainly don't fully understand what it's gonna look like. So, as a select board, is the year where the governor starts the year off by warning everybody about 20% property increase, the year we want to come to you asking for a bond? No, it's not, but it's the right thing to do. And yeah, if we wait longer, if we wait 2 years, it'll probably be 5.5 million. If we wait 4 years, I don't know, like the way the prices have gone, especially around labor. And materials it's just growing. So I think it is right I hope people do vote for this bond, and I hope they think about, the biggest portion of the town's budget is the road. Not quite as much this year because we
Really
shuffled some things
squeezed it.
around, but typically more than half of your budget comes from that road and from that road, whether it's the road crew or paving or whatever. So I mean, that's half our budget. And so to me, that's kind of like, that's their center, that's their core, that needs to be solid. And other than it being a tough year to consider that, all the other reasons are, we really need your yes vote on that. Your road crew needs your yes
They
vote.
do. Yeah.
And it's the right thing to do.
So, just,
Someone had a question, sorry.
No,
Want me to read the
let-
question?
yep.
Are we sure that 4,150,000 will be enough? What happens if there are cost overruns?
Well, what happens is, we're already putting $500,000 in, and we anticipate we might not use all that $500,000 to go along with the rest of it. And so we will, there's no reason why we can't look for other additional funding along the way, or do what we have to do with the budget to make it work, because that's one reason why we squeezed as much out of this budget, out of our own operating budget this year, to offset as much as we could of the bond vote.
But that's a good point.
Yes,
That number is based on the best guess of the engineer who we had facilitated, who had worked at a couple other facilities. It's not based on bids. We don't have a bid for
yeah,
$4.5 million to build it. We
Yeah.
have our best guess that we could come up with to get the bond. We're not gonna go to bid if we don't have the bond. So
Right.
it's a great question.
but Brian has some.
The best guess, from memory also includes a contingency factor of, I think, 15%. So there is some wiggle room that is built into that. And I think that's typical of construction, as a margin.
Thank you. I didn't remember that.
But the other important thing is to think about the people. I mean, because this really is not human friendly right now.
Correct.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, it had gotten worse than we realized. We knew it was bad. We knew it was tired. We have been investing in it.
Yeah.
But boy, that report coming back from Matt Young,
It was eye-opening.
was eye-opening and,
Yeah.
it was worth it. Visiting the place was definitely worth it.
Oh, it was.
It was
Absolutely worth
definitely
it.
made it real clear. Eric, you mentioned 171.64. That's for the year, right? Of increase of $400,000.
yeah, so that's what, if your house is assessed at,
400,000.
Yeah.
That's a yearly, so
Yeah.
$14 a month. Change in your taxes.
I didn't divide by 12.
I did. I break it down actually a lot of times in a month to look at it. So I gotta look at $14. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though. For those of us that escrow, that's the particular escrow increase your bank will
Correct.
increase.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's
So-
true. That's true. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Do you see
I
any?
do not see any other questions. Anybody else have any questions? How many years would the increase? How many years?
So Maria,
Actually, the first year is the most expensive, and after,
Yep.
every year after that, it's a decreasing number because
Yeah,
Principal goes down,
the principal goes, the principal,
reduced, just like your home mortgage.
yeah.
but it's 30 years, and Maria, Brian's explained it to us, I think on the 5th time I finally got it. It's not, the way that these types of loans are structured are not like, you know, you might take out a loan on a mortgage where you have a fixed set. What's fixed about these types of loans is the principal payment. So the principal payment stays the same throughout the 30 years. And then the interest payment is just based on how much principal is left. So you can imagine, I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but the principal payment is, let's say, is a certain number, and then every year the interest, you know, whatever the interest rate is, will decrease by whatever that percentage of that, I guess, decreases by 1/30th, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
In year 10 for that $400,000 home, the tax increment is $144. So you can see that went down from $27, which is close to your quick.
Yeah.
And, but it doesn't preclude us too, so let's say we have a year where we don't have to buy a truck and we take another year off for paving. That budget money could go towards it in a positive manner.
It could, if future select boards want to shorten that, or we end up with a high interest rate and there's, you know, there's all sorts of things that we would have the ability to.
We have that option, right, with this
Yeah.
type of loan.
And we also, I checked with this, our local expert right now. And if the rates do go down even, because they have started going down since we started looking at it. There's been several changes downward, which is good. We don't know what the feds are going to do come this summer, because it's anticipating that they're going to decrease the interest rates. So that will impact what the bond is. And we will, you know, be monitoring the best opportunity to go in. And even after you've gotten your bond, after you've had it a while, if the rates go down again, there's no rule that you can't refinance to get even a lower interest rate and make it even more economical for the taxpayers.
so Peter Booth has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Without getting too much into the weeds, just mostly out of my own curiosity, why is that structured? Maybe this is a question for Brian. Why is that structured differently than like a 30-year home mortgage where it's, you know, it's $1,000 a month forever?
It's the way that, the Vermont Bond Bank and a lot of
Sorry, can Brian come to the mic? It's really hard to hear him from out there, despite, I know there's a mic out over the seats, but it's less.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, the Vermont Bond Bank, that's the way this kind of financing works with them. As to why they do that, it's just the way that the bonds are collected and resold, if you will. So there are different options, but this is the way that the bulk of the town municipalities are packaged and resold.
Do you know if I'm guessing it's better to have, as the lendee, it's better to have it structured this way. My first home payment, I'm paying like $3 of my principal, and the rest is all interest, and then that flip-flops throughout. Is it better to have it this way?
It absolutely is better to have it this way. That's right.
Yeah.
It does work to our advantage. And as Eric points out, the reason is because that principal amount is set and you're paying so much more of the principal on the front end. So
Right.
it saves you money on the interest overall.
Great, thank you.
Andrew Albright asked, what's the interest rate and is it fixed over 30 years? I don't know if we answered that or not.
So I think we won't go and get locked in until we get the vote, so I know throughout the discussion of talking about this, it changed some, so I don't know that we know exactly what we'll lock in at, Andrew.
Yeah, the rate that we were quoted on January 16th was 3.92% for 30 years.
But I thought that had dropped from maybe a couple months earlier, that would.
Yeah.
That had dropped from earlier,
Yeah.
actually in November.
Okay, yeah. So a couple was right, so 2 months.
Any other?
No other questions. Anybody else have any other questions? No hands up.
Because that basically is,
That's our agenda, I believe.
that's our agenda.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
If there was no questions, then there we go.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Night.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. And thank you for taking your time.